When understanding creation, there is a point where destruction and creation are two halves of the same coin. There are several points of creation in the universe and several points of destruction. Stars are these points. The scientists have it correct. The amount of energy in the universe is a constant. It's just either in the form of matter or energy. It just moves back and forth between those 2 points. So the amount of energy is a constant. You just cannot always measure it because part of it is on the other side. Okay? But you have to consider the entire universe or the mind of God as a whole. That's WHO. What happens is the explosion, is a release of energy, wave, into this universe. But at the same time, it is the breakdown of matter that releases that which is between the matter, that which is God. That's why you get a stream both this way and this way. What is the negative? What is a negative charge? What is a nothing charge? And how can that be? It is a flow of ions or electrons moving back into an energy state. Pure energy, not electron, which has mass. Okay. But it's moving back to this point that it vibrates at such a frequency that it disintegrates. It disintegrates. Okay. At the same time, out here, as it breaks down, the energy that is broken down from it begins to create new molecules. Hydrogen, helium, these things leave the sun and are collected in space. Eventually they become things, they solidify, they use the north face of God. And the north face is cold, the north wind. That is the energy of fact. Fact crystallizes more and more and more until ultimately it becomes matter as you know it. It becomes the earth, it becomes the planets, etc. The other point where this happens is every cell in your body. It is what happens when you eat. It is what happens when you eat. It tears down the mass, and there are these tiny explosions in every cell in your body, releasing new life. That is why the food that you eat should be alive, as opposed to dead. Okay, as opposed to eating rocks. It kind of doesn't work. Or eating food that no longer has life's force in it. It doesn't matter particularly which you eat, as long as it contains life. Okay, when I say which you eat, you may not eat flesh for other reasons, but I'm saying that in terms of what you will get inside, you will receive the same nourishment. You just have to eat it closer to being alive than than having been killed and frozen. We say, "Well, it's still fresh." Well, that simply means that there's not a lot of bacteria in it and that it has not integrated, but the life's force is still not there. Okay. Well, it's fresh frozen. It's only been dead 6 months. Well, it's a long time for the consciousness and the energy to still be within it. But I'm saying to you, it doesn't matter in It only matters in that what you eat be alive. Then you have to begin, if you want to take that even deeper, you have to begin to get accustomed to the 7 frequencies of your own body. Just as, I said I wasn't going to do that, but I guess I must do this. Okay, just as when we take the cube and pare it down and it becomes the pyramid. The pyramid represents the 4 faces of God. The north face, it's very confusing now. The north face is the Leo and the sun, but that which comes from the north is cold. Okay. That's the way it works. Everything is reversed. It has the Leo, the Sagittarius, and the other fire sign. What is that? Aries, yes. There is a whole group of people born under that influence. But not only is that influence upon the people, but upon the plants and the animals that come into being under that sign. So you have 3 of them on each one. 4 times 3 is 12. That's the 12 houses of the zodiac. I don't really like to talk about the houses of the zodiac because there's so much foolishness involved in it. You get people who really haven't a clue telling you that you are, well, this is going to happen because you were born at this time and blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that they forget is man has free will to determine his own destiny. And your destiny is determined by how you deal with each and every moment. So what the stars can tell you are possibilities. What the fortune teller can tell you, if they are any good, is a possibility. Not what will happen, but what will possibly happen if you continue in the line. But so much for that. That isn't my point this morning. So each thing upon this earth, even down to the minerals, relate to a specific energy vibration of the universe. So does each system. You have 7 systems in here that vibrate at the level of everything in the universe. So what you have to understand is the relationship between that vibration and the food that you eat in order to supply the kind of life's force needed for each system. Does that make sense? Okay. Your mineral system is your bone. Okay. So you have to relate to that. I mean, you look at it and what color is it? And what does that mean in terms of light? Because each thing is a different frequency of light that has been congealed and congealed or congested and congested or crystallized and crystallized until it has become form. So in order to study it, you really have to pay attention, you know. You really have to get some anatomy books and stuff like this and begin to think about that. See, what I want you to do, the learning process is the investigation. I don't want you to understand it as being the study of, because then what we do is we take what we see as the fact. No, I want you to take what you see as a fact of being there, but not all of the fact. So I don't want to say study it, I want to say learn. And let's consider some things. Every human being on this planet has or is an addict, chemically dependent. Okay, and we look at the people who take it in the veins and up the nose and stuff and say, well, why don't they stop that? Well, why don't we stop our addictive habits? There's a reason. Okay? One of the reasons is that your body is a biochemical vehicle. There are certain chemicals produced in the brain because, hear this now, because you behaved in a certain way. It's not the reverse. It's not the opposite way. The doctors will say, well, you have a chemical imbalance. And we can give you a chemical and balance you, therefore you are the result of the chemical. No. The imbalance is because of the way you dealt with your belief systems that cause certain chemicals to become unbalanced. I think if you have, I could be wrong, some of you who know a little bit more about this, because I don't really look at it in terms of the names, but in terms of what they do. Dopamine, you have an excess amount of dopamine, it makes you stupid. No. It makes you aggressive. Then in conjunction with a certain type of adrenaline. All right. So one of the things that has happened to a person who has that imbalance on this side is something had happened. And they sat and they nurtured that attitude until the body began to produce more of this dopamine and the particular type of adrenaline and less of the chemical that kept you balanced. So now we're like this. So what it is we have become addicted to the dopamine and the adrenaline produced by your own body. And it perpetuates the attitude that you started. And every attitude that you have is a result of having perpetuated that attitude over time and making you, I don't know, mean, happy, joyful, whatever. So it is a matter of chemical dependency. So you got your own little dope thing going, crack house going on inside of your body. But this is the way it operates. It is also the reason why it is difficult to change your behaviors. Because in order to change the behavior, you must behave differently. And in order to behave differently, the more you behave differently, the more the body says, well, all right, well, wait a minute, what is this fool trying to do? Well, we need to bring this up, and bang. You become balanced again. I prefer that you do it in a balanced manner, that is, practice your techniques. Because I don't know, I just believe that it's not valuable a lot unless it's hard. That's just my personal belief. Okay, if you work for it, there are things that you will understand about it that you won't understand about it if you just go and take the chemical. Or go and take that which vibrates to the opposite side of where you are already vibrating. In other words, balance your chemicals. What you will find. No, it is because what happens with the hallucinogenic is that it offers you a temporary insight, and it will go away. So you still have to do the work. But what has been found is that people who do hallucinogenics have on the nerve receptors, the receptors have increased tremendously. So they get more of the higher vibrational frequency. Say on that nerve ending, there's like a little Y thing that sticks off of there that takes the molecule of whatever that atom is, or you can think of it in terms of charges. That makes that fit right into that receptor. So what happens is you take more, when you take the hallucinogenic, you create more of these and more of the higher vibrational frequency. The molecules that represent that frequency become on there, and you're able to see what you should be able to see anyway, and experience what you should be able to see. But they have found that in people who have been meditating 20, 30 years, they have an increased number of receptors. I have an increased number of receptors. Not just because I've been doing it for so long, but by bringing everything into balance. They're just there because that's the way it's supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? That's, you stop doing the things that produce, the things that inhibit the production of the receptors, then the receptors grow naturally. So that means one of the things that we've talked about this whole thing is that you have to examine what you think and what that means. What it means in terms of the effects upon you. Does that make sense? So when you change that, everything changes. It becomes natural. You merge with that which has been left behind. I say that I do believe that it is a good idea for some people. For some people, it is not. For a person who will believe they can fly and jump off a building, it's not a good idea. But for a person who believes that they can fly and try to take off from their seat, it's a good idea. See, one of them smart enough to take it and one is not. And in most cultures throughout the world, and particularly those cultures who are closer to the truth than we are now, that is a part of their religious experiences. But it is for religious purposes and not for party purposes. So it depends. It can drive one person nuts because they're not ready for what they see, and another person is in perfect heaven with it. It all depends. You're in process. And in process, you're going to find a lot of little weird things happening. You are changing, literally, changing your body's chemistry. So there are going to be memories locked in there. There are going to be all kinds of things. That's one of the reasons why, along with your investigation, I've always said you must be objective. That means you can't get off into anything you find. Right. You can't. You just let it happen. So these things are going to explode, and stuff is going to be in there, so you just have to. One of the things I would suggest that you not do is try to put them in order. Okay? Because what you're talking about is a time-space continuum that doesn't really exist. It is a matter of how you have been taught to focus. We say that there are 7 vibratory frequencies of light. Well, that isn't true. There are 7 vibratory frequencies of light that can be sensed by the mechanics of your reality. Your eye is one of those mechanics. Your touch, your taste, your smell, your machines. But what you have to understand is that they exist in a band, let's say this wide, okay? And they pick up only those things that vibrate at a frequency that makes them real in this line. There are things that pass through this line so quickly, your biomechanical or your mechanical instruments cannot pick them up. Those are the ones you can only be. You can't experience them. You can only be them. Okay? So, one place is no more or less real than another. But all that passes cannot, I will say it has a reality, but it has no truth. Because truth lasts forever. Everything changes forms in this band. Because everything vibrates at a frequency that can be picked up and can be called real. But it's not. It doesn't mean anything. Because what you are coming back to is equilibrium. And in equilibrium, there is what we call God. But in equilibrium, there is no thing. And that is truth. And that is forever. Okay. So, yes. Thought, yes. Thought takes you out of it because it is a coarser vibration. Yeah, because the minute you start trying to experience, you're now thinking and into the coarser vibration. That's why it's important to learn how to be silent. And to have those spaces. There are certain spaces that you're going to, I don't know, kind of touch, where you'll become very quiet, but yet at the same time you see and hear everything that's going on. Your senses become much sharper, become heightened. Well, they're not really heightened. It's just that you've shut up long enough for them to be experienced, these finer frequencies. So you're going to touch those places, and you touch them pretty much through meditation, through learning to be silent, through learning to let the energy move so that your vibration becomes different, so that you experience it, so that you become free of the habit, the monkey that's on your back. These are the things that will enable you to see that. Yes, Dave?
I want to ask you about, a dream where I was standing in front of an atomic explosion. But it wasn't like boom and over, it was an ongoing. And when I first stood there and I jumped up and I reacted to it, but I didn't. In the usual dreams, when you react, you wake up. I didn't wake up, and I was standing there, and I suddenly realized that I realized, and it said almost simultaneously that it wasn't hurting me. It was a gentle burning away of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel like I'm getting the suntan.
Yeah.
I just constantly got that tan.
Yeah. Yeah, you must have turned around to the, because you tan all over. It just wasn't.
I have questions about, because I feel it here, and I know in the last lecture you said we have to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
When I sit here, I'm able to hit it and be it.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when it's like, there are times when I feel like I'm on this side and it's just absolutely stone cold. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then it flips to the other side where it's absolutely feminine and absolutely,
okay. There's something, you're having all your questions answered about that, and what you have described is exactly what I said about the point of transition from form to non-form, from God to form, from form to God, in that explosion. But one of the things that you are experiencing now is that in the dream you were being told exactly that, and you felt the radiation. You see, these things are subtle, but because we're so noisy, we usually don't feel them. But now you've had the opportunity to feel it, and you know what it feels like. being on different sides of it is showing you the forces, the two forces that make it happen. One is cold, one is heat. Okay? Are the two forces. When they come together, stuff starts to happen.
So I'm still trying to be honest.
Yeah, just but the thing about it, relax and allow it to teach you. Just be with it. Don't try to do anything. Let it do its thing. And learn from it doing its thing. Because in there is, oh man, it's, you know, in there is it all. It's everything. So just relax in with it.
These Sanskrit books, they have pictures of these so-called divine beings.
Yes.
I keep seeing, and I don't know if this is just a mental interpretation of what is, but I mean, I keep seeing these places of, you know, the one that's neither masculine nor feminine, but both, neither. I mean, you say all things are simultaneous. it's like leading.
But what those things are the forces that govern form. And they were given names. And see, in the West, we do very stupid things, particularly if we are fundamentalist. We do very foolish things. In the East, they name them as deities. We took that to mean that they had all these gods and called them pagans. Well, had they called us fools, it would have been more appropriate. Because what they were talking about are the ithers or the forces of Michael that govern the vibratory frequencies of your physical world. And you're having the experience of those. And one of the things our minds will do in order to make sense, will make pictures of some sort. Sometimes it's kind of weird pictures, okay, but it's according to our own minds. So you will get, if you've read of these deities, you will get one of these deities. Because before my experience, I had never read of these things. It's just closer to pure energy for me, and it has another kind of form, in a sense, another kind of consciousness for me. Because when this happened, I had no clue. Okay, I had never read, but understanding that there's a frequency. See, there's a frequency that is mosquito, that governs all mosquitoes. There's a frequency that is cat, that governs all cats. And we can call those, some would call them deities, or moles, or lots of stuff. Some people even call them gods. I don't know. They're just stuff. You know, and stuff with certain characteristics that enables life as you know it to be. Now, as you study, and see again, this is why it's important to begin the study of systems and vibratory frequency, and plants and animals and vibratory frequencies, because they are going to correspond to what you need to do. Now, some things aren't going to help you. Don't think you're going to live forever. You're going to die. So don't even think about it. Okay, just do the best you can. Remember, it is about balances. Okay, there is a complement to everything in this universe. There's a complement to everything in this universe. There's a complement across species, across genders. There is a complement. Okay? What you have to do is find them. This is knowledge. See, this is This is what makes it worthwhile. This is what makes it fun. Okay. I see things pretty much as a scientist would, because that was the way I looked at life. Again, when I see cow, I don't see Krishna. You see, as the Lord of the cows. I don't see Krishna, I see something that all cows are. And that's good enough for me. I see something that all men are. I see something that all water is. And to talk about that to me is an absurdity. All I can say is open the living book and begin to learn from the frequencies. Yeah.
I look at people and I see God. And you said, I see people. Is that what you're saying? I see God, and yet I realize how if I say something, I am weirder than I have ever been, and I don't know what that means. Wow, really weird.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You learn how to be quiet, because the stranger, the more knowledge you gain, the stranger you become. Only in the eyes of those who have not grown and who have not changed. So I've said to you that this is search for truth is an alone trip, because not many people want to know the truth. They just want to be perfectly happy in their own little addictions. Whatever that addiction happens to be, they just want to wake up in the morning, 2 garages or 2 cars and a house and a couple of dogs and 1.3 child, and wake up in the morning and be Donna Reed or Ward or the Beaver or whoever it's going to be, and that leaves us pretty ignorant and pretty crippled. But we will defend our ability to be crippled, or our lack of being a whole person. Okay. They will feel miserable and want to strike out at the world about their misery, or another class of person or whatever in their misery, because someone does not uphold their values, instead of understanding that everybody's value is just their value, and allowing them to have their value and you have your value, and that doesn't make them any better or worse than you. That's too much work. You see, so by having this mentality, you're going to get very strange. But the consolation is they're as strange to you as you are to them, so what the heck?